Hey everybody, this is Vince Miller. Thank you so much for joining me for another devotional, and happy Good Friday to you guys out there. Today we're going to be reading John chapter 7. I'm going to read verses 32 through 36. Interesting moment for Good Friday right here. It states, the Pharisees heard the crowd muttering these things about him, and the chief priests and the Pharisees sent officers to arrest him. So they want to kill this guy, okay? So they're going to arrest him. Jesus then said, I will be with you a little longer, and then I'm going to him who sent me. You will seek me, and you will not find me. Where I am, you cannot come. The Jews said to one another, where does this man intend to go that we will not find him? Does he not intend to go to the dispersion among the Greeks and teach the Greeks? What does he mean by saying, you will seek me, and you will not find me, and where I am, you cannot come? Again, a bunch of confused religious officials. So, fellas, when the average man looks into the face of death, he has to come to terms with his own mortality. In those moments, they often change, don't they? They begin to think and to speak and act very differently. I've seen this many times in my own life. Suddenly, everything that used to consume a man no longer consumes him. But not Jesus. His mortality was known. He was always looking in the face of death. He knew this from his first breath to the date of his last. Every ministry moment for him thus was planned and intentional, from the wedding in Cana in Galilee all the way to the cross in Golgotha. He knew exactly how much time he had. He knew where he wanted to go. He knew the people he wanted to see. He knew the men he wanted to mentor. And right here, he knew the celebrations like this one that he wanted to attend. He wasted no moment, because every moment for him was a single breath to that last breath. And the contrast between a man who actually knows his mortality and one who does not is actually seen right here. Jesus, of course, knows it and is resolute with all this awareness of what's happening in this moment. But in contrast to him, we see a confused crowd who doesn't really understand that they're living on borrowed time, his time and theirs. So for a moment, let's go back to the Old Testament. I'm going to read a single verse for you from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verse 2. It states, it is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for this is the end of all mankind, and the living will lay it or take it to heart. So did you catch that today? The proverb states it's way better to go to a funeral than a feast. Because when you go to a funeral, you're forced to think about your death, which forces you to think about what? Well, life. And you know what that makes this? That makes this proverb the perfect proverb for this very moment. Remember, Jesus was attending a feast, a celebration. It was called the Feast of Booths, which, by the way, was the most joyous celebration every year for Jews. It was a celebration of God giving to them the promised land, those moments that they entered and took Jericho and Israel with it, the land flowing with milk and honey. That's what they're celebrating right now. Yet center stage is a man who is, well, looking at his impending death. He's staring down the final moments of his life. He can see from probably where he is standing the hill of Golgotha. Within his sights is death, which means what? It means eternal life for everybody. And he's trying to tell people about this life, but they can't see it because they're too busy celebrating. You see, gentlemen, Jesus' death has confused people for millennia. Millennia. Yet, it's really something that all men have to ponder. The Bible teaches that Jesus' death was an act of God's redeeming love for the sin that separated us from him. The Bible teaches that his death was our spiritual healing. The Bible teaches his death was a means of our righteousness. John has already told us in his story within the Bible that if we believe in Jesus as Lord, he will save us, giving us what? Eternal life. So when I, a believing man, look at the cross of Jesus, I see something special. I see God's provision of salvation for me. The defeat of sin by the sacrifice of a sinless man. The defeat of death so I can have life and an eternal home. And that gives me a reason to celebrate. And that, fellas, is why we call it Good Friday. I hope this has blessed you today. If it has, share it with someone else, and I'll see you right back here again next time.